Good afternoon. This is Oxinity Talks on education. My biggest fear every time I have a Friday talk is to go blank. And today I have to confess my fear is that I have such a terrible cough that I'm going to have
Coughing fit.
a cough attack. So if that happens, sorry guys, it will be your turn.
Okay.
In any case, we're going to talk about fears today. And since we know that we all have them whenever we start a new profession, or even if we are experts, there are always some fears that we have to deal with. So, what are they? We're going to identify them and provide a solution. We're going to do it with Gabriela and Stefan in Madrid. Hi, guys. And
Hi.
hey, and here with me are Rob and Anna. Hello to you.
Hello.
Too. Hi. My name is Radmila
Hello.
Gurkova. Let's get started. Can you hear us well, Stefan?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So, in general, do you guys have any fears or you're fearless? Rob.
Fearless.
Fearless.
No, I think everybody has fears. No, whether it's even not so much a fear, but if you meet a group for the first time, you obviously we get the level and stuff, but you get a bit nervous.
Mhm.
Let's say
Yeah. Of
for the
course.
first time.
For the first time. The
Then
first
after that
time
it's
is scary.
fine. But no.
Okay, Anna, what about you?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm fearless, but I think that teaching will be okay, but always when you have the first class, and especially when it's a serious client and you know that this client will be your open door to
Yeah.
future incomes, and you know that you have to do your job well, and probably you will, but you always have this kind of fear that of uncertainty, what would happen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good fear though.
Yeah.
You can have good
Yeah.
fears, no? A bit of excitement, a bit of nerves at the same time.
Yeah,
Then
of
you
course.
can use that
Then make,
in class.
definitely, you'll tell us how.
Will I?
Gabrielle and Stefan, what about you guys?
Yeah, I would also like to point out that when we talk about teacher fears, like as a concept, because fear is a strong word, so it's kind of an overarching umbrella term for many things. It could be concerns, could be something that worries you, it could be something that stresses you. But I think that a lot of times, for example, you had mentioned when it's a first class, like for example, in my case, I'm new to Madrid, so just even commuting can be a little bit worrisome, and when you've got to go to a place that you've never been to before. Then, of course, meeting the students, if you don't even know who it is, you've seen the name, but you don't know much else about that person. And then you find out that their needs, or perhaps what they think they need, one of the things that also raises concern is differentiating between what the student wants and what they actually need. And you kind of have to be the intermediary there. And sometimes when you're starting off with a new class, it's important that you incorporate the platform and the materials that have been designed by Oxinity. And if you're going to digress, or if you're going to try to supplement it with what the student wants, then again, this becomes a whole new game that you have to take on. And that can be a little bit, it can create a little bit of stress. And so these are fears that you might have in the beginning when you're trying to get to know a new student, a new client. Yeah.
Okay, Gabriela, what about you?
Um, I think the fears or something that we raised today in the talk was when it comes to obviously know that as teachers we're not salesmen, right? But we need to create the kind of content that students teach. And one of the fears was I really enjoy teaching kids, for example, but I have a background in law and politics, and I don't really know what kind of create to attract kids, for example. So how do I create the content that I need to attract that I would like?
Okay, so we're going to talk about solutions to all these fears. And before that, let me start, if that's okay with you, with the before even the classroom, the business part of it. So business related fears. You mentioned it. You said it, Gabriela. You guys are not salespeople. So, what is the biggest fear that you can have when it comes to getting students, if at all?
Your fear is that you won't get enough students.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe fearing the appropriacy of the content that will be suitable for them, because oftentimes a lot of the content we have is so generic. We use it with children, young learners, adults, professionals. So we have to make sure that the content and the activities are adaptable to the, well, that the appropriacy for what they're looking for is there.
So, okay, that's a good point. We'll go back to the business one. Just a quick answer to that point. How can we sort out this fear, the fear of having a wrong content, for instance? What can we do? Or what have you done if that happens?
Well, I think firstly is preparation, right? So check your lesson and make sure that there isn't something that is there that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
And then I think if it's a new student that you have, keep it, when it comes to grammar structures and vocabulary, that is stuff standard, and you should be doing that in the first part of the lesson. But if there is a topic that perhaps you feel is not going well or is not resonating with the student, check the target language and then speak about something else. I think that's the easiest thing to do, especially when it comes to topics. But it's also important because we have a system that is looking at what the student, because we're trying to identify what the student doesn't know, it's so important that that you know and that they know the target language in that topic, and then move on.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. Very good. So take the target language, contextualize it, and find out what the students know, what they don't know, so that we can move on.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Actually, regarding content, if the appropriacy worries you, we always start with general content, because before the first interview with the student, we don't know. Actually, the first meeting with the student, the first class is also checking their needs. So it's very easy for us once they tell us, okay, so by the way, this is my level and these are my needs and these are my purposes. We can definitely tailor the classes so that we provide exactly that content. I'm telling you this because you really don't have to assume that this is what you need to teach no matter what. We have alternatives, very good and very broad. We have material for every single specific need. I mean, over the years we've taught clients from so many different backgrounds that we've created material pretty much for everything. I mean, legal English, medicine, architecture, you name it, we have it probably. So don't assume that you have to deal with that and it's something steady that we cannot change. On the contrary, we can be quite flexible there. But okay, back to what Anna was mentioning. Actually, it's a fair point. Okay, so I'm not a salesperson. How do I go about getting students? What how do I approach that? Gabriela, did you guys discuss that in Madrid?
Yes. So I mean, we were saying the thing is Affinity needs to know who you are. So you need to know what your strengths are. So you need to know what you're trying to teach, and you need to be creative and factors. So you can use that, whether or not you have current students that you're going to send material to via WhatsApp, or whether you're wanting to attract new students, about knowing yourself and knowing what to tell you.
Okay, so basically, if we are well prepared for a class and our students are happy, that will give us a possibility of gaining what? Like referrals.
Yeah, exactly. Word of mouth, right? Word of mouth.
mouth.
So if you give a good class, if you're prepared and you give a very good class, then the likelihood is that person, whether they're an individual and you're teaching their kids or it's in business, the likelihood of them passing on a reference or whatever is very high.
Yeah.
Because
It's
everyone's
actually-
kind of always looking for English classes, right? And people talk about that kind of thing when they're out with their friends. Even say, "Oh, I've just started English classes with this new teacher. Here, you should give it a go," kind of thing. And boom, before you know it,
Yeah.
you can get a little kind of
Absolutely.
circle of
Even brand new teachers. I mean, right after the TEFL course, they also get referrals. I mean, it's amazing because if they do well in class, that's the best thing the best advertising that you can have.
Yeah.
Actually. All right. So our first advice to what if I don't get students? Don't worry. You will get students if you're well prepared, if you and if you're able to explain the system right. Okay, so that you provide arguments to the students to pass on this information to their friends and okay, great. What other fears have the teachers expressed, Gabriela?
I think one of them, not necessarily related to the business part, particularly the new, the impactful. So I feel like, for example, like how do I know I'm going to give a good class? Maybe I don't feel as confident as I should. Am I a good teacher? How do I know this? And
Okay. So how do we know that we are good teachers?
Well, by references, first of all, which we can receive after each class.
Yeah.
And I think that the most important thing is if we keep the class funny, if we see the student engaged, and if we see the student willing to communicate with us, to do exercise and so on. So we have to be sure that we are good teachers, because if we weren't, they wouldn't do this. They would stay like without any smile on their face, like looking somewhere else and not into eyes. I think that it's some kind of an impersonal, non-verbal communication. you know?
Exactly, body language. So their reactions are going to tell us whether we're doing a good job. Yeah. Okay, that's one thing. Anna, you mentioned also references or comments from students. In our system, the students can comment.
The feedback, right?
The
Yeah.
feedback, exactly. That's another thing. I would add, on top of that, if your timing and the pace of the class is correct, if you have performed the activities and you've done good concept checking, be sure that your class was good. Okay, and on top of that, ask. As simple as that. So, how did you like the class? Was that what you were looking for? The students will tell you openly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
This-
No, I think you can get a feel for it, right? As
Yeah.
well, when you're in the room, you can
Mhm.
get a feel. Oh, I did actually a really good class then. Or that maybe wasn't as good as last week. So and yeah. But just being open, I guess.
Yeah,
If
and
you've got that
sometimes,
confidence.
yeah, you can ask about the activities. Did you like this topic? Did you like this activity? Especially
Yeah.
with topics, right?
Yeah.
Because topics you never know if they're gonna like it or no. So sometimes you have to adapt them.
I would change it a little bit. Instead of did you like it, because it's a yes or no
Yeah.
answer, what did you
What
like
did you
about
like?
it? What do you find useful about it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, better to go
Could I-
for a open, yeah.
Could I add anything else to next class to maybe give you something more? You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else, or do we have some questions?
So in terms of like the business spheres that we're talking about, people have mentioned about I'm not a salesman, etc.,
Okay.
saleswoman. Yeah. Well, how much time should be spent on making content? So we've said that maybe we can create content rather than I don't have to sell myself, but I can create content
Uh-huh.
to help that. In terms of maybe how often and how much
Yeah.
time should be spent on that type of stuff.
I think that we can take Gabriella's example, and because she's producing very good content, she's found her niche, and she does it. How often do you do it, Gabriella?
I spend maybe 2 hours a week
2 hours.
on a Wednesday or when I have time. But the thing for me with content is you want to make it as efficient as possible. And for me, if you don't even sometimes have to make the content yourself, fine. I mean, I think Judith is a very good example. She finds content that is already out there, and then maybe creates a short paragraph about it so that Google can obviously track it with their SEO, and she shares that. So you don't necessarily always have to be creating it yourself. You can also share what's out there already.